Hey guys, what's up and welcome to the channel. I'm Shotgun Shogun, and we have a new unit. Now, I don't know how you want to pronounce this. I am going to call this unit Choux. A lot of people Choux, something like that. Who knows? Regardless, new unit came out. It is a water warrior. So a lot of people thought that it was going to be a dragon waifu, right? But no, instead we get a little pink-haired mouse girl. Now, initial thoughts on this one, she's okay, right? She's like annoying little sister cute, right? Not a waifu for sure, unless you are, or unless you're into that, I guess. But little cute kid has a big Chungus pet, right? Has a big Chungus pet. Not too sure how I feel about this aesthetically, right? So she's just a normal kid and she's a human child, but she's got the hoodie, the mouse hoodie, right? Everybody thought it was a dragon because of the tail, but no, she's just a wannabe mouse, bit of a furry. That's fine. Aesthetically, I've already seen a lot of people not a big fan of this unit, but that aside, we're going to get into the rest of it. We do have big Chungus here, so that's interesting. I actually thought that it would be kind of cool if she was like Nunu from League of Legends, where she rode on top of him and he was just kind of there, and then they did their ultimate thing, but no, unfortunately not. So Ice Warrior Libra, not bad. Got the goggle aesthetic. I kind of like that. I like the booties. She's only 15, by the way, guys. Canonically, she's 15, so chill. Head pats only. I like the little mouse. The little mouse is cool. Extra big Chungus. Dumping on people. Some of the wording that they put in this is kind of questionable as well. Okay, so hero introduction. Let's talk about this character. So like I said, actually Capricorn warrior. Why did I say Libra? I don't know. I was looking at Libra something else. Somebody probably already commented that I said Libra and she's actually a Capricorn, and that's fine. That's fine. But regardless, anyways, Ice Capricorn warrior, which is interesting because right now you'll still hear people talk about how there's an ice meta, water meta, just so much ice. There's SSB, there's Dizzy, there's Crow, and there's DN. That's about it. Yeah, you don't really see too much in the way of like cigarettes and PvP, anything along those lines. You just don't. So honestly, when you are looking for potentially, you know, an ice damage dealer, who do you even bring, right? So I think that this actually is kind of okay, right? Low base attack because she's a Capricorn, 966, not that great. Really high health because 7323, not bad. Low-ish base speed, 102, right? So she's scales, she's basically Ravi because they have the same stat line, which you can still get Ravi decently fast with a bunch of other stats. So we do have the effect resist imprint. Nice. I like that. But you have critical hit chance self imprint, which is huge because critical hit is one of the harder things to get in the game, right? Because the stat on substats is very, very low. That's why a lot of people use crit sets, because you get the 12%. Yeah, it's 12%, I think. But you get the crit hit chance, a lot harder to stack, right? So if you do get multiple copies of her, she's not limited. So you can get these eventually. You will end up benefiting, I feel personally, a bit more from critical hit chance self imprint. This is going to allow you for a bit more wiggle room in your overall kit for other substats that are a bit easier to get, right? And you're going to want HP. We'll talk about that in a second.
생명력이 매우 높은 편입니다. 기억 각인으로 아군의 효과 저항을 올리거나 기억 집중으로
when we go to skill 1. Okay, so number 3, help me, Cream. Questionable question. There's going to be a lot of jokes about this. Let's just be real on this one. When I saw it, I was just kind of like, yikes, you guys didn't really think this one through, did ya? But anyways, freezes all enemies before attacking with Cream, increases critical hit resistance of all allies for 2 turns, and grants the caster immunity for 2 turns. Damage dealt increases proportional to the caster's max health. Welcome to even more bruiser meta. This is on a 5-turn cooldown. This is going to go down to 1 turn. You are going to also get 3 focus on this. That's big. Anyways, so it's going to be AoE damage, right? This is also going to increase critical hit resistance. She's the second person in the game that does AoE critical hit resistance. The other one is DN, and she's limited, right? Not only that, but she's literally a completely different character kit-wise. So that's really big. Plus, it also gives her immunity. So that's really big for 2 turns. It is on 4-turn cooldown, so 50% uptime on this. Not bad. I'm interested to see what her damage modifiers are, because we're getting a lot of characters that scale off of damage with like AoE S3s, right? And one of the big things here is if she scales as well as, like, let's say an Alencia, right? This is going to be real big, because you can build her very high damage, you can build her very high tanky, semi-quick, and it's going to just really put out a ton of damage. She's a very more damage dealing focused, and we're going to talk about that when we come to her other skills, right? But the other nice thing is, though, is that she's not very greedy when it comes to her kit. She does increase critical hit resistance of all allies, which is a 50-50, which might as well be 0%, because we know if it's not 100%, it might as well be 0%. So this is actually really nice. It gives herself immunity. That's really big as well. And so I think that this is very strong to put into the kit, right? One of the reasons why, well, there's a lot of reasons why DN is super good, and one of the, higher tier Soul Weavers in the game is because you do have increased critical hit resistance, and this is really big, especially when you're going against very high damage focused opponents. An Arbiter Vildred comes back and just gets no crits whatsoever, and that really hurts their DPS a lot. Stack that with an Arius Adamant and a defense buff or something along those lines, and this is really big for those people who don't have access to the critical hit resistance buff. This is an option.
크림은 적 전체를 얼려버린 후 크림을 불러 공격합니다. 아군 전체에게 2턴간 치명 저항 증가를 발생시키고 자신에게 2턴간 면역을 발생시킵니다. 자신의 최대 생명력이
I do kind of like the animation on this. It's not bad. But overall, we'll see how much damage it ends up doing after the modifiers, right? So before he dumpstered on these things, how much damage did we have here? I don't think anybody was like really super high. But one of the big things, so I mean, you had 4,500 damage on a crit, right? I mean, I guess that's not the worst. It's hard to judge off of these, right? Because you don't know how much crit damage. You do know how much health. I think this one has about 34k, 24k hit points. but we don't know the C damage, right? So chances are it's not rocking 350% critical hit damage. And the way that modifiers work with critical hit damage is a big factor, right? So we don't know. Now that was, by the way, through a defense buff as well. So that's actually not bad, right? 4,500 damage on a crit on a defense buff. Semi okay.
치명타에 피격될 확률을 50% 감소시키므로 자신을 포함한 아군이 생존하는데
Not only that, but we don't know. No, there's probably no Arius Adamant on that shield, right? Or on that team. So second skill is going to be Whoosh. This is a 3-turn cooldown. Attacks the enemy by wildly swinging a spear. Penetrates the enemy's defense by 30%. When you have 5 focus, you get 3 from the third skill. It consumes all 5 focus. It penetrates the defense by an additional 20%. And it resets the cooldown of this skill. Now, this is really, really big here because chances are by the time you get your 5 focus right, you probably S3'd, then you S2'd, and then you S1 twice. Then you can Whoosh into another Whoosh, right? So that's really big. And I think that depending on, again, the modifiers on this, you have potentially 50% defense penetration. This is going to be really good for breaking tanks. Not only that, but you have a 10 soul burn that increases your damage dealt. Now, we don't know how much that's going to be, right? Again, like I said, we'll find out the modifiers probably tomorrow, and I'll do a video on that by the numbers. And I think that this has the potential for some very, very good burst damage. Now, one of the big things that a lot of people hate about the tank meta is you have very tanky, very high defense, damage reduction, and it's just real hard to tank break, right? If you're bypassing 50% of their defense, they're gonna be real squishy, right? So you just come through, just boom, get a defense break and pen defense, and they're just gonna melt off of this. And like I said, depending on what this damage dealt here, especially the soul burn, that's gonna be real big. Now, in the example that they show here, you do have it going against an R Violet, right? Now, we don't know how much defense, anything like that, but it does miss, right? So that makes it so you don't take any C damage modifiers into account because, well, you missed. You obviously didn't crit, right? So we still do 3,200 damage on a miss to an R Violet. So that's real big, especially if you factor in the fact that after you actually hit, you're going to be adding in your C damage modifier. So this can actually do some disgustingly good damage. And I do think that the soul burn is going to be real big, right, as well. So, I mean, you S3, you get your defensive buff up. That way, by the time you get back around, chances are you'll have your 10 souls. You just soul burn S2 into something, potentially deleting any sort of squishy unit because you're just going to defense pen right through them and blow them up. And then you just S1, S2 again, and then you're going to be able to S2 yet again. Now, she's not going to have like a specific sort of cycle, right? And she may have to Whoosh off of, because you're going to want to make sure that you're using up your focus, right? You can also sit on it so that when you do need the 50%, the extra 20%, and then the cooldown, you don't necessarily have to use it as soon as your focus comes up, but you are like leaving focus there on the table if you're not using it to reset your cooldown as well, right? So there is that. But with that said, I mean, this does have the potential to do some very, very high damage. Obviously, I would imagine that these characters are plus 15, right? Now, let's talk about this S1. And I think that this S1 is very, very strong, right? So this attacks the enemy with a spear. You get 1 focus. But when you have this maxed out, this is going to give you 20% increased combat readiness. So you're already going to start further up the chain. So this is going to heavily make up for your very low base speed, right? A lot of characters, you know, if you build her fast and she's just hitting S1s, dual attacks, counter attacks, things along those lines, you're going to be cycling very, very fast. You're going to be popping off those S2s. And the thing is with her, you can completely negate probably the attack stat. You don't need effectiveness at all because she has no debuffs. So this is going to make her her stat pool very, very open, right? Because you're going to want to do a moderate amount of defense, good, amazing high HP, decent speed, 100% crit, and then good crit damage, and then that's it. I mean, really don't have to do much more than that. If you run around an immunity set, by the time you get around, you're going to have 2 turns of debuff immunity after the fact. You will have 2 turns of debuff, or have that down for 2 turns, but that's something you'll have to deal with after the fact, right? You can potentially run an anchor or a seed on her, but I think with her having debuff immunity in her kit, that is not really something you have to worry about. Obviously, you'd have to worry about that if they brought some sort of stripper or something along those lines, but I don't think that is necessarily something you have to worry about too much. But this is real big. I like units that CR push themselves forward on their S1, because again, like I said, you know, and if you look here, again, like I said, we don't know all the overall stats on this, so don't take this into, you know, don't immediately look at this and go, oh well, this unit is hot doo-doo because it only did 4,000 to a Broman. He's probably real squishy. Again, we don't know any of the things, but I mean, even for a 24,000 hit point bruiser, hitting for that kind of damage is actually not bad on a crit, right? Obviously the modifier is not as good as her S3 potentially, because that did a bunch of damage through a defense buff, but we'll see, right? We don't know, like I said, the stipulations around all of those things, so I don't want to pass judgment right now. But even if nothing else, this is, like I said, going to help her cycle, because like even right there, you have her lapping the Tywin. Okay, so if we look at the speed bar here, let's go back real quick. So you have everybody starting out here. She is gonna almost lap this K-Ron, right? Just pops right in, cuts right behind the K-Ron, right in front of your A Tywin. Now let's say, you know, you run, like I said, a counter attack set on her. Counter Sigurd Scythe on her would potentially be real disgusting and allow for a lot of increased survivability. So, you know, you have that option available, and you wouldn't get as much from the attack, right? But you would get the lifesteal. But if like you run multiple dual attackers, you're going to be running into like a Lilius. Anytime Lilius pulls show in, you're going to be getting that increased CR push, and that's going to be really big for making her very fast and very oppressive, in my opinion. If you had the Champions Cup, you have potential stuns, right? Although I don't think that's very great. Durandal's going to make her just go even faster, and you're going to turn cycle very, very fast. So I think that's, you know, really, really strong. Now, we are going to talk about her artifact, right? But I do want to switch over to my account here, and let's talk about basically like the fact that she is very much like Ravi, right? So she has literally the same stat line, the Capricorn Warrior. And one of the big things that you can do with Ravi here, and let's see, I have her at the moment on a counterattack set. Now I have her a bit more bruisery, right? And I don't have her built exactly how I would build Show, right? Because I've obviously got a lot more attack, I got less health and speed than I would probably run, but I would also replace you know, an attack ring with an HP ring. I would replace a lot of my attack substats. I wouldn't have 41 attack on her, right? I would have more crit damage. I would build her much more like Alencia. So realistically, if I were going to build her, let's say even just on a counter attack set, even at 161 speed, her S1 is going to help her cycle. But let's say I did put her in a speed crit set. I will just give this my Alencia gear here, just to kind of show off like what kind of stat line you would be looking at if we were to build her very much like my Alencia. Now, if I were going to build her like Alencia, I would also probably, or if I were going to build her with my Alencia gear, I would also probably give her my Draco Plate, which would give her that increased critical hit damage, which would also assist in the fact that she would be pretty much she would be capped, right? So she would be 180 speed with 21k hit points with 350% critical hit damage. Now that's going to do a lot of damage. She is also not going to be a slouch at 1269 defense. Now I could potentially modify a little bit of this here and there to give her maybe some more speed substats to increase her speed a little bit, but at 180 that's not going to be bad whatsoever on this unit, I think. And we'll see how things come out, like I said, with the overall modifiers, right? If her modifiers are even close to Alencia, I think that she's going to be just absolutely nutty. Now, now artifacts that I would run on her, right? I would probably personally, I'm going to probably run a Sigurd Scythe on her just for that extra survivability, right? Her S3, if you're in Sigurd Scythe range, is going to give you a bunch of hit points back. Her S2, if it's big damage, you're going to be getting that survivability. Her S1 cycling is going to give her that survivability. I think that is going to go a long way to making sure that she, if it ever comes down to like a 1v1 situation, that she's going to have the advantage, because she is going to have that Sigurd Scythe increased attack, which, while it's not going to help out a ton, it's going to still help out, right? You could still, like I said, do Durandal just in case you wanted to turn cycle a bit more. Now, personally, I think that you have to be under 75%, and you do have to be getting hit, right? Herbarius Tooth, not going to be great for her. Draco Plate, obviously, most likely best in slot, because it will give you that increased critical hit damage. And like I said, if her mods are good, that's going to stack very, very high. Going to be a big fan of that. Now, because she has her own CR push, Hellcutter, not going to be great on her. I also don't think that like Strax or Crimson Seed or Timeless Anger are going to be good, because she has that debuff immunity built into her kit, right? And so if you open with an immunity set and then you go into one of those, I think that's going to be very, very optimal. Now, if you do need extra crit, you can run a Lensonox Wrath. This will help you out quite a bit there with that, and since she'll be turn cycling semi-quick, it should stack up, and then just cycle over and over, and you should be pretty solid on that. So I think that one's not a bad artifact on her at all. But I do think that Sigurd Draco Plate are probably her best in slot, honestly. You can also run things like Sepulchrum or Proof of Valor if you want to make her extra tanky. But I do think that those are probably going to be some of your better overall artifacts for her. Now, honestly, maxed out Draco Plate's going to give you more health as well, which is also going to stack into how much damage you do. So we'll see. I can't picture myself stripping my Alencia for her, but I do think that she's going to be very, very strong. She is unfortunately going to be a plus 15 unit, and I do think that it will potentially be worth it. If you don't really care about the aesthetics or you like the aesthetics of the character, then fantastic. But do I think that she's meta breaking? I don't think she will be. I think that she'll be a very good high burst single target bruiser warrior. I think that that'll be great. I think this will be amazing for the fire expedition because of the CR push on her S1. I also think that she'll be an interesting unit to have in your kit, right? Again, it's going to come down to, though, the fact that since she is a bruiser, you are going to need to pretty much plus 15 her to make her shine. So do I think that you should pull her? I don't know. Personally, I'm going to, but I'm also a bruiser player, right? So that's a whole different topic. I personally do, like I said, I'm going to save all of my hard judgment till tomorrow when we find out the mods on her. But I do think that she has the potential to be very, very strong. And I do think that she fits well into the meta. And I also think that it's phenomenal that she brings a semi-unique buff in the critical hit damage reduction. But anyways, let me know what you guys think. There's a lot of mixed feelings on her. Obviously, you're going to have a lot of people that are just going to say that she's hot doo-doo, especially, an hour, 2 hours after she came out. Already people just saying hard pass, she's Garbo, but you know how people be. Anyways, let me know what you guys think. And if you haven't yet, hit the subscribe button. I would appreciate it, but you don't have to if you don't want to. If you do want to help out the channel, though, I do have a Patreon, but you can also help out just by sharing this out and helping me beat the YouTube algorithm. Anyways, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Take it easy, homies. Peace.